I stopped breathing when I saw my presentation on the screen. Through the glass conference room wall, I watched Tom Berenger click through slides I had spent 3 weeks perfecting. My color scheme. My data visualizations. My exact phrases. But my name was nowhere on that screen, and I wasn't in that room. The Harrison and Cole executive team sat around the mahogany table, nodding as Tom gestured confidently at charts showing projected growth metrics. Those were my projections. I had built them from scratch after spending hours analyzing their quarterly reports and industry trends. My coffee cup burned against my palm, but I couldn't move. Tom must have sensed eyes on him because he glanced toward the glass wall. Our gazes locked for 3 seconds. Then he smiled, that slow, deliberate smile that said everything without words. Know your place. I turned away before anyone else noticed me standing there like a fool. My heels clicked against the marble floor as I walked back to my desk, each step echoing in the silent hallway. Back at my cubicle, I set down my coffee with shaking hands. Around me, coworkers whispered behind computer monitors. I caught fragments of their conversations. "Wasn't that Nicole's project?" someone asked quietly. Another voice responded with nervous laughter. "Tom's presenting it like he built the whole thing himself." I opened my laptop and stared at my email inbox without really seeing it. 3 months of work. Countless late nights running numbers and building relationships with Harrison and Cole's team. All of it now being delivered by someone else while I sat outside like I didn't matter. My name is Nicole Pierce. I'm 32 years old, and until this morning, I believed that hard work eventually got recognized. I had spent 6 years at this company, climbing slowly from junior analyst to senior account manager. I saved contracts that Tom nearly destroyed. I mentored his team when he was too busy networking at expensive restaurants. And somehow, every success I earned became a threat to his ego. The memory hit me suddenly, 3 months ago, late on a Friday evening. I had been alone in the office, frantically rebuilding a presentation for Monday after Tom had accidentally deleted the original file. He had called me from a bar, laughing with clients in the background, asking if I could help him out real quick. That help turned into 14 hours of work over the weekend. When Monday came, Tom presented my slides to the executive team without mentioning my name once. Afterward, he sent me a brief email, "Thanks for the assist, Nicole. Great team effort." Team effort. Those words made my stomach twist, but I had smiled politely and accepted his thanks. What else could I do? Tom was VP of Client Relations. I was just an account manager, still trying to prove myself worthy of bigger opportunities. Maya, my closest work friend, had warned me that day. She leaned over the cubicle wall, her expression serious. "He's threatened by you, Nick. Be careful." I had laughed it off, insisting Tom was just stressed. But Maya's warning proved accurate. Over the following weeks, Tom's behavior shifted in subtle ways that most people wouldn't notice. He started forgetting to copy me on important email threads about accounts I managed. During client calls, he would interrupt me mid-sentence, saying, "Let me finish that thought for you, Nicole." Once, in front of Harrison and Cole's operations director, he referred to me as my assistant even though my title was clearly senior account manager. Each incident felt small enough to ignore, but together they formed a pattern. Tom wasn't mentoring me, he was systematically erasing my contributions. The breaking point came this morning. I had arrived early, excited about presenting to Harrison and Cole's executive team. The meeting invite had been on my calendar for 2 weeks. But when I reached the conference room, the door was closed. Through the glass, I saw Tom already presenting. My presentation. I had stood there, frozen, trying to understand what was happening. Then I fled to the restroom, locking myself in a stall. In that bathroom stall, I pressed my palms against my eyes, willing myself not to cry. One tear escaped anyway, sliding hot down my cheek. I thought about all the times I had stayed late, all the problems I had solved, all the credit I had let Tom take because I believed it would eventually balance out. But it never did. It only got worse. I took 3 deep breaths, wiped my eyes, and straightened my blazer. When I looked in the mirror, my face was composed again. Professional. Calm. But something inside me had changed. Never again, I whispered to my reflection. I left the restroom with a new clarity. No confrontation. No emotional outburst. No forwarding angry emails to HR. Tom wanted a war, but I wouldn't give him one. Instead, I would do something much more effective. I would document everything. Back at my desk, I created a private folder on my personal laptop. Every email exchange with clients. Every file version with timestamps. Every meeting note showing who did what work. Over the next week, I began quietly rebuilding my relationship with Harrison and Cole, but this time directly with the client rather than through Tom's filter. I sent a friendly follow-up email to their operations director, Alex Turner, asking if he had any questions about the proposal Tom had presented. Alex responded within an hour, asking for clarification on several technical points. I answered thoroughly, providing additional details Tom hadn't included. "You always make things clearer, Nicole," Alex wrote back. "I appreciate how you break down complex concepts." That simple acknowledgement felt better than any praise Tom had ever given me. More importantly, it established me as a direct contact. Over the following days, Alex started emailing me first whenever Harrison and Cole had questions. Tom didn't notice at first because he was busy taking credit for landing the initial meeting. But I noticed. I noticed everything now. Meanwhile, I continued my normal work, managing other accounts and supporting Tom's team when needed. I smiled in meetings. I stayed professional. 2 weeks after Tom stole my presentation, a crisis hit the Harrison and Cole account. Their quarterly data integration had failed, causing reporting errors that made their executives nervous about our software's reliability. Tom panicked. He called an emergency meeting, his face flushed as he tried to explain technical details he didn't understand. "We need to reassure them immediately," he said, looking around the room. "Someone get me a solution proposal by end of day." I already had one ready. I had spent the morning analyzing the integration failure, identifying the root cause, and designing a fix. "I can have it to them within an hour," I said quietly. Tom blinked, surprised. "You already worked on this?" "The error logs came through at 6 this morning. I started troubleshooting immediately." An hour later, I sent the solution directly to Alex Turner, copying Tom. By noon, Alex had responded, "Nicole, this is exactly what we needed. You've saved us significant time and worry. Thank you." He copied his CEO on the response. Tom forwarded Alex's email to the executive team with a brief note, "Great work by our team resolving the Harrison and Cole technical issue." Our team. Never my name specifically. But this time, the executives had seen Alex's original message. They knew who had actually solved the problem. I started noticing small changes. The company president, Caroline Hughes, stopped by my desk the next day. "Nice work on the Harrison and Cole crisis," she said. "Alex Turner spoke highly of your response time." "Thank you," I replied simply. Caroline studied me for a moment, as if seeing something she hadn't noticed before, then walked away. Around the office, whispers began circulating. "Nicole's really running that account, isn't she?" someone said near the coffee machine. I pretended not to hear, but I saw Tom's jaw tighten when he passed by. He started scheduling private lunch meetings with senior leadership, meetings I wasn't invited to. He posted photos on the company's internal social platform, showing himself dining with executives, reinforcing his image as the relationship builder. But relationships built on appearances are fragile. Tom discovered this when Harrison and Cole's contract came up for renewal. The deal was worth $40 million over 3 years, the largest account our company had. Corporate headquarters sent a directive, this renewal required executive-level attention. A presentation was scheduled for the following Tuesday. When I checked my calendar Monday morning, I saw nothing. No meeting invite. No preparation email. Nothing. I walked past the conference room around 9 that morning and saw the familiar scene through the glass wall. Tom was setting up his laptop, arranging papers, preparing to present. On the screen behind him, I recognized the slides immediately. They were based on my renewal proposal, the one I had drafted 2 weeks ago. He had taken my document, removed my name, and prepared to present it as his own work. Again. But this time, I didn't feel the sharp sting of humiliation. I felt something else entirely, calm certainty. I had learned from the first time. I returned to my desk and waited. At 9:15, my phone buzzed. The message was from Alex Turner. "Where are you? We expected you to present today." I replied carefully, "I wasn't included in today's meeting. Tom Beringer is handling the presentation." 3 dots appeared, showing Alex was typing. Then, "That's not what we agreed to." Hold on. Inside the conference room, I watched Tom begin his presentation. The Harrison and Cole executive team looked polite but distracted. Their CEO, Vincent Cole, kept glancing at his phone. 5 minutes into Tom's presentation, Vincent raised his hand. "Excuse me, Tom. Where's Nicole Pierce?" Through the glass, I saw Tom's confident expression falter. "Nicole is working on other projects today. I'm leading this presentation as VP of Client Relations." Vincent's frown deepened. "We specifically requested Nicole for this renewal discussion. She's been our primary contact and understands our needs better than anyone." Tom's face went pale. "I can certainly address any questions you have. We'll wait," Vincent interrupted firmly. My phone rang. It was Tom's assistant. "Nicole, can you come to conference room A immediately?" I gathered my laptop and walked slowly down the hallway, giving myself time to prepare. When I entered the conference room, the atmosphere was tense. Tom stood frozen by his laptop. The Harrison and Cole executive team turned toward me with visible relief. Vincent Cole stood and extended his hand. "Nicole, thank you for joining us. We were just explaining to Tom that we prefer to work directly with you on this renewal." I shook his hand professionally. "Of course, Mr. Cole. I'm happy to walk you through our renewal proposal." Tom remained standing awkwardly by the screen, unsure whether to sit down or leave. Vincent gestured to an empty chair. "Tom, please stay. But Nicole will lead this discussion." For the next hour, I presented the renewal terms, answered technical questions, and addressed concerns about integration improvements. I knew every detail because I had built every slide, researched every metric, and spoken directly with their team for months. Vincent Cole asked a complex question about data security protocols. Tom had stumbled over this exact question in his earlier presentation, I later learned. I answered clearly, referencing specific security measures we had implemented based on Harrison and Cole's requirements. "That's the clarity we needed," Vincent said, nodding. Around the table, his executive team made notes and exchanged satisfied glances. When the presentation ended, Vincent stood again. "Nicole, this was excellent. You've addressed all our concerns. We'll move forward with the renewal, but we want all future communications to go through you directly." He glanced at Tom. "No offense, Tom, but Nicole understands our business better than anyone else on your team." Tom forced a smile. "Of course. Whatever works best for Harrison and Cole." As the client team filed out, Vincent stopped beside me. "Between you and me, Nicole, we almost walked away from this renewal. The disconnect between our early meetings with you and today's initial presentation was concerning. I'm glad we insisted on having you present." After the conference room emptied, Tom and I stood alone. The silence felt heavy. Finally, he spoke, his voice tight. "You went behind my back to the client." I kept my voice calm. "I responded to their questions when they contacted me directly. That's my job. You made me look incompetent in there. I answered questions about work I had done. That's all." Tom's jaw clenched. "You think you're clever, don't you? Playing politics, building relationships so you can take credit. The irony was so thick I almost laughed. Instead, I picked up my laptop. I'm not playing anything, Tom. I'm just doing my work. I walked out, leaving him standing alone in the conference room. That afternoon, senior executives started appearing at my desk. Caroline Hughes stopped by first. The Harrison and Cole team was very impressed with your presentation, she said. They specifically mentioned your deep understanding of their business needs. Thank you. I've worked closely with their team for several months. The next morning, Tom sent a company-wide email thanking the entire team for their contribution to securing the Harrison and Cole renewal. He praised collaborative effort and group success without mentioning any individual names. Everyone who had been in that conference room knew the truth. By afternoon, I received a formal request from Harrison and Cole. All contract communications should be directed through me, with Tom copied for visibility. It was a polite way of saying they didn't trust Tom to manage their account anymore. Tom couldn't publicly object without admitting he didn't understand the client's needs. So he accepted the arrangement with a stiff email agreeing to delegate day-to-day management to Nicole while maintaining strategic oversight. Strategic oversight. Empty words that let him save face. 2 weeks later, corporate headquarters called a leadership meeting. Tom attended, expecting routine business updates. Instead, he was informed of a strategic realignment that reassigned him to a regional project in another state. The language was corporate-friendly, but the message was clear: he was being moved away from major accounts. Tom cleaned out his office on a Thursday afternoon. I watched from my desk as he packed boxes, his movements stiff and angry. He didn't say goodbye to anyone. The following Monday, I received a letter from Caroline Hughes. It was a promotion to Director of Client Relations, along with a significant salary increase and equity options. Attached was a handwritten note from Vincent Cole: "We don't just trust your work, we trust your integrity. Thank you for your partnership." I framed that note and hung it on my office wall. Not because I needed validation, but because it represented something important, proof that competence eventually speaks louder than politics. Maya stopped by my new office that afternoon, grinning. "Director Nicole Pierce. Has a nice ring to it." "It feels strange," I admitted. "Like I shouldn't be happy about someone else's downfall." Maya shook her head. "Tom created his own downfall. You just did good work and let the truth show itself." Over the next few months, I rebuilt the client relations department with a different philosophy. No more credit stealing. No more erasure. Every team member's contributions were acknowledged publicly. When someone solved a problem, their name went on the report. When someone built a relationship, they maintained it. The difference was immediate. Team morale improved. Turnover decreased. And our client satisfaction scores reached record highs. I hired someone to fill my old position, a sharp young analyst named Kara who reminded me of myself 6 years ago. During her first week, she stayed late working on a complex proposal. I noticed the office lights on and stopped by her desk. "You don't have to prove yourself by working all night," I told her. "Good work during normal hours is enough." Kara looked surprised. "My last manager said staying late showed commitment." "Your manager was wrong. Results show commitment. Balance shows sustainability." I left her with that thought and went home at a reasonable hour myself. 3 months into my new role, I attended an industry conference where I ran into Tom. He was working for a smaller firm now, no longer a VP. We exchanged polite nods across the convention hall but didn't speak. Later, someone told me he had been let go from his new position after only 6 weeks. Apparently, his pattern of taking credit for others' work had followed him. I felt no satisfaction hearing that news. Tom's downfall wasn't my victory, it was just the natural consequence of his choices. My victory was building something better. Harrison and Cole's contract expanded. They referred 2 other major clients to us, specifically requesting to work with my team. Our company's revenue grew by 38% that year, largely due to those relationships. During the annual company meeting, the CEO recognized my department's contribution. Nicole Pierce and her team have set a new standard for client relations, he announced. Their approach of genuine partnership rather than transactional sales has transformed our business. The applause felt good, but what felt better was knowing my team members were also being recognized. Kara had just closed her first major deal. Another team member, James, had been promoted after solving a critical technical problem. These weren't people working in my shadow, they were professionals building their own reputations. One afternoon, Caroline Hughes asked me to mentor a new group of account managers. Teach them how you approach client relationships, she said. I agreed, though I wasn't sure I could explain something that felt instinctive. During the first mentoring session, someone asked me directly, "How did you handle Tom Beringer taking credit for your work?" The room went silent. Everyone knew the story, but no one had asked me about it directly before. I thought carefully about my answer. I documented everything, maintained my relationships, and focused on doing excellent work. When the moment came, I let my competence speak for itself. "But weren't you angry?" another person asked. Of course I was angry, I replied honestly. But anger without strategy is just noise. I channeled that anger into preparation. Every email I saved, every relationship I maintained, every skill I developed, those were my strategy. I paused, remembering that moment outside the glass conference room. The hardest part wasn't the work. It was staying quiet while someone else took credit. It felt like swallowing glass. But speaking up in that moment would have made me look petty or emotional. So I waited. Waited for what? Someone asked. For the right moment. For a situation where my absence would create problems they couldn't ignore. That moment came when the client specifically asked for me. That's when silence became my loudest weapon. The mentoring session ended, but several people stayed afterward to talk privately. They shared their own stories of credit-stealing managers and wondered whether they should speak up or stay quiet. I gave each person the same advice: document everything. Build genuine relationships. Do excellent work. The truth always surfaces eventually. A year after becoming director, I received an unexpected email from Tom. The subject line read, "Apology." I almost deleted it without reading, but curiosity won. His message was brief: "Nicole, I've had time to reflect on my behavior at the company. I took credit for work you did, and I tried to diminish your contributions because I felt threatened by your competence. That was wrong, and I'm sorry. You deserved better. I'm working on being a better leader now. I hope you're doing well." I read the email 3 times, processing my feelings. Part of me wanted to respond with all the anger I had swallowed for years. Another part wanted to ignore it completely. Instead, I wrote back, "Thank you for the apology. I hope you find success in your career. Best regards, Nicole." Short. Professional. Final. I didn't need his apology to move forward, I had already done that. But I hoped he genuinely learned from his mistakes. Perhaps his next team wouldn't have to endure what I did. 2 years into my role as director, I was promoted again, this time to Vice President of Client Relations. The same position Tom once held. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. During my first meeting as VP, I looked around the conference room at the team I had built. They were talented, confident people who knew their contributions were valued. No one was stealing credit because there was no reason to. When people feel secure, they don't need to tear others down. My management philosophy was simple: hire excellent people, give them the resources they need, and get out of their way. Then publicly celebrate their successes. It worked remarkably well. Our department became the highest performing division in the company. Other departments started adopting our collaborative approach. The culture slowly shifted from competitive credit grabbing to genuine teamwork. One day, I walked past conference room A, the same room where Tom had first stolen my presentation. Through the glass wall, I watched Kara leading a client presentation. She was confident, articulate, and thoroughly prepared. After Kara's presentation ended successfully, she found me in my office. "Thank you for letting me lead that meeting," she said. "I know you could have done it yourself." "That's not how leadership works," I replied. "My job is to create opportunities for people like you to shine. You earned that presentation by doing excellent work." Kara hesitated, then asked the question she had clearly been holding back. "What happened with Tom Beringer?" "I've heard stories, but I don't know what's true." I considered how much to share. "Finally," I said, "Tom taught me an important lesson. The only person's opinion of your work that truly matters is your own. If you know you're doing excellent work, eventually others will see it too." "But what if they don't?" Kara asked. "What if people keep taking credit?" "Then you document everything, maintain your integrity, and trust that truth has a way of surfacing. It might take time, but competence outlasts politics." Kara nodded slowly. "That must have been hard." "It was," I admitted. "But it also made me stronger. Tom's behavior forced me to become better at documentation, better at relationship building, and better at strategic thinking. In trying to diminish me, he accidentally taught me skills that made me successful." I smiled at the memory. Sometimes our obstacles become our greatest teachers. Kara left my office looking thoughtful. I hoped she never had to experience what I did, but if she ever faced credit stealing or erasure, she now had a framework for handling it strategically rather than emotionally. That evening, I attended an industry awards ceremony where Harrison and Cole was being honored for innovation in their sector. Vincent Cole gave an acceptance speech and publicly thanked our company for partnership. "Specifically, I want to recognize Nicole Pierce and her team," he said from the podium. "Their commitment to understanding our business and solving our problems has been extraordinary. This is what true partnership looks like." The applause echoed through the ballroom. Caroline Hughes, sitting beside me, leaned over and whispered, "You've come a long way from that stolen presentation." "We all have," I replied, thinking about the team I had built and the culture we had created together. After the ceremony, Vincent approached me with a proposition. "Nicole, Harrison and Cole is expanding into international markets. We want your team to lead our technology integration across all regions. It's a 5-year contract worth $200 million. I kept my expression professional, though my heart raced. This was the largest deal in our company's history. "We'll need to discuss terms and timeline," I said carefully. "Of course. But I wanted you to know, we're not talking to anyone else about this. Your team has earned our complete trust." That word again, trust. It kept appearing in my career, like a thread connecting all the meaningful moments. Tom had never understood that trust was the foundation of every lasting business relationship. He thought sales was about impressive presentations and smooth talking. But real partnerships were built on competence, reliability, and integrity. The qualities he had tried to steal rather than develop himself. The following Monday, I stood in conference room A preparing for a presentation. The same glass walls that once framed my humiliation now framed my success. As I connected my laptop to the screen, I glanced through the glass and remembered that morning 2 years ago. I remembered the burning coffee cup, the tears in the bathroom stall, the whispered promise, never again. I thought about Tom's smirk and how it had made me feel small and powerless. I thought about all the credit he stole and all the times I stayed silent. But mostly, I thought about the choice I made to respond with strategy instead of emotion. The presentation began. My team sat around the table, Kara, James, and 3 others I had hired and mentored. We were presenting to our executive team about the massive Harrison and Cole expansion. Every person in the room knew their role. Everyone's contributions were clearly documented and acknowledged. As I spoke about our proposed approach, I felt genuinely proud. Not because I had defeated Tom Beringer, that had never been the goal. I was proud because I had built something better than what existed before. A team where people felt valued. A culture where credit was shared. A department where competence mattered more than politics. After the presentation, Caroline pulled me aside. That was excellent, Nicole. You've transformed this department completely. I smiled, thinking about that glass wall and how differently I saw it now. We just focused on doing good work, I replied. Everything else followed naturally. That night, driving home, I passed by the office building and saw the lights still on in conference room A. Someone else was working late, preparing for their own big moment. I hoped they never had to experience what I did. But if they ever faced someone trying to steal their work or diminish their contributions, I hoped they would remember, the most powerful revenge isn't about getting even. It's about doing work so good that your absence becomes the problem no one can solve. It's about building genuine relationships that can't be faked or stolen. It's about letting your competence speak louder than anyone's lies. Because in the end, truth doesn't need a voice. It just needs time. And patience. And the quiet confidence of someone who knows their own worth, regardless of who tries to deny it.